What is up, everybody? It is Flight of Icarus with MetalTrenches.com, and it's time for Trench Talk. Today, I've got the full band Torrential Downpour talking about their latest album, 2020, their favorite Dillinger Escape Plan album, and all sorts of random asides. We somehow talked about 311 at one point. I don't know. Just check it out. But before I get into it, this podcast is available again on iTunes, Spotify, Castbox, YouTube, you name it, a platform, and you can listen to it on there. But regardless of where you subscribe for the podcast, please also subscribe to the YouTube channel if you haven't already, because there's all sorts of video reviews, tier lists, and other content for you to check out there. But that out of the way, let's get into the episode.
Let's
get
cool. Right
well, thanks again
so
for
much.
doing this, because this has been a long time coming. I remember, I think back just listening to Truth Knowledge Vision, I reached out and was like, hey, if you guys ever put something out, we should do a podcast episode. And here we are, a while
6 years later.
Well,
hey, better late than never.
Yeah, I know, right? And it came out great, but we'll get to that. I think maybe a good place to start for people who maybe aren't as familiar with your group, little rundown of kind of how it all got started, early influences, and how you guys found each other.
Oh man. The name Torrential Downpour goes way back, back to even 1995. But not to get too caught up in logistics and stuff like that. Basically, the band reformed again in 98, and Jay, our guitar player, had officially joined in 2000, and that solidified our lineup as the four of us. And so we've been playing together since then, from 2000. So yeah, so this 2020 is actually our 20-year anniversary on 2020 kind of. It's it's almost like an allusion to that.
Yeah, it's wild too. Just to there's a lot of albums too, turning 20 this year, and just seeing some of those, I was like, Jesus Christ, that makes me feel old. It's I feel I was talking to somebody on the podcast. I was actually talking to Joe from Within the Ruins the other day, and we were talking about how it's weird to think how the way my dad used to talk about Jimi Hendrix is the way I talk about Hybrid Theory from Linkin Park. I don't know how I feel about that.
Yeah.
Hey man, in the end, it doesn't really even matter.
That's right. Well, there's a delayed response for that one. I like that. That was great. Well, speaking of that too, what were going back to your all early days too, getting into music and heavier stuff too, and what all goes into your sound, what do you feel are the major influences there?
I feel like we all have different spheres of music that we come from, but one of the main ones that connects us all is definitely Pantera. I mean, we even so much as that we've done, the Dime Fest parties where, we just do sets of Pantera songs. We've covered full Pantera albums. So, I mean, that's one of the ones that has solidified us. Faith No More, the Deftones are a lot of the common threads between us. But I know that, Sherman's got his bands that he's into, and Volpe and Cece and myself all have different other bands that influence us. But there's certainly a core of bands that we all dig on and feed off of.
Yeah, for sure. And you said Faith No More, so I'm definitely that was one that stood out for me, especially listening to this album. I think just the Patton influence on the vocals especially. But maybe we could kind of go around too. I'd be interested to hear from everybody influences.
Sure. I mean, my main earliest influences were Nine Inch Nails, Downward Spiral, Marilyn Manson, Antichrist Superstar were really huge for me. But then, I mean, Pantera was always there, but it was really Dillinger Escape Plan that just changed everything. And, and then many years later, it was, I mean, I'd be remiss if I didn't say Meshuggah,
Oh, for sure.
But
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of other angles like Venetian snares and the electronic end of it, like wild noise stuff, Leafcutter John, stuff like that. Aphex Twin, whatever you want to say.
Oh yeah. Hell yeah, Aphex Twin. Yeah, and you're throwing out a lot of my favorite stuff. I was actually just going for a emergency toilet paper run too before the world ends for a second time or third time or whatever it is we're on now. And Bleed shuffled into my playlist too, and I was like, hell yeah, man. Like nothing can beat just like those old Meshuggah
Dude.
albums coming on. Just the best.
Come on.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Oh, and I
Yeah,
wanted
for sure.
I wanted to say too, you mentioned Deftones. What do you all think of the new album?
I listened to it a couple of times, and I thought it was okay. I feel like the Deftones lately, like just in my personal opinion, like their albums have been kind of samey the last like 3 or 4 records. To me, anyway, it's just like I'm kind of getting that same vibe, but like I like all their records, like the past like few, like especially in like the post like 2010. I feel like there's like a handful of songs that I really like. There's a handful of songs I'm just like, yeah, whatever. And then the rest of the songs are like, okay, yeah, this sounds like the Deftones. So it's like, it's serviceable. I'm just not like blown away. It's definitely like the last time I think I was blown away by the Deftones was Saturday Night Wrist.
Which is
Oh.
funny because that's like Chino's least favorite album, and they were like
Wow.
going through like a ton of problems during that era. But that can sometimes spawn a great record. I thought the new, the new one seems to be really divisive because I'm seeing the same. Like I really love it, but I know plenty of people who have the exact same opinion that you just stated. And I mean, White Pony's still always my favorite, but actually Koi no Yokan is probably in my top 3. Like I really enjoyed that album.
Oh yeah, our buddy Scott, who just recently did a remaster of our first record, our self-titled record. He is like, I recently was in a conversation with him about that record and the Deftones record. I forget the name, Koi Fish or whatever it's called. And I re-listened to it, and yeah, that album. Like I remember when I first heard it, I was like, like I didn't want to listen to it again. I wasn't inspired to listen to it again. But then after listening to it, because it's one of his favorites, and he was just kept like going on about it.
There's some heavy shit.
I took a listen
too.
again. Yeah, there is some good stuff on there for sure.
Yeah, I've learned over the years that I'm more of a, I think, Stephen Carpenter fan than a Chino fan overall. Like I like the heavier direction that he tends to take things.
Yeah, we all honestly we come straight from Adrenaline and Around the Fur. Like
Around the Fur is great, and I love Adrenaline too. Yeah,
that was when we were learning our.
Oh yeah.
Craft,
I would say that for sure.
Will that's the Deftones we know.
Yeah, no, it's good shit. It's
that's
all
the
good stuff.
That's the Deftones we saw a bunch of times too. We saw countless times during those years.
Even the self-titled Deftones album is really good, and
that album
didn't get a lot of notoriety. It was just kind of like there, and then it went away. But like, that's one of my favorite Deftones albums. Is that self-titled one?
Well, it kind of didn't get a fair shake too because it was coming off of the success of White Pony, and it was like there was no way it could live up to that hype.
Yeah.
So I think I was really disappointed with it when it came out, but over the years I've come to appreciate how kind of interesting and different that album is. Well, we can keep going around though. I know I keep breaking in, but there's so many interesting things to talk about here.
I want to throw one other band in there.
Yeah.
One other band. Typo Negative.
Actually,
okay.
That's pretty funny.
Is very much, I don't know, in there in the Torrential Downpour
interesting
influence range of time.
Huge.
Yeah, even to the
There
point,
he is.
even to the degree that in early writing sessions they would just go, Pete, just Typo Negative. And I was like, oh, all right. I knew exactly what they meant when they told me those words. I was like, all right, I got you.
Yeah, this next part we're gonna go typo, all right, Pete?
Yeah. And it was like, all right, we're just gonna slow it down. We're gonna have time. We're gonna blow out that China symbol. I'm gonna pretend Pete's out there sliding up down the bass with the wine bottle.
Yeah.
That's sick.
I
go
guess
for it.
As for me personally, I guess like when I was growing up, Queen was probably a big influence on me. Like Freddie Mercury and Brian May, that combination specifically had a big influence on me. And then I guess I kind of like grew up listening to Metallica, Nine Inch Nails, Pantera, obviously. Yeah, that's like definitely one of the bands that like got us all together. And then then I discovered like Faith No More and Mike Patton, Mr. Bungle, and that really just totally kind of changed my world and just like made me kind of like think about vocals as more of an instrument rather than just like something to deliver lyrics, as like a vehicle to deliver just lyrical ideas and stuff like that. And that's really like kind of like where I've basically got kind of like a lot of my style from, like I would say anyway, like at least of my influence. Like when I write, like I tend to write the structure and like the phrasing first before I write any lyrics.
Yeah, and I think particularly listening to those like Phantomus albums for the first time, especially Director's Cut, like half the time he's not even doing lyrics on there. He's just like making noises, but it sounds so just amazing. Like to me, like Patton is like the GOAT. Like Freddie Mercury is obviously like in a completely different camp, but Patton is just his own creature.
Saying that, man.
Yeah.
You're not wrong.
Oh yeah, no. Patton's one of the greatest modern rock like / metal singers of our generation, like without a doubt. Like he's like he's a legend. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like there's no doubt about it. He put out like
literally do it all.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. He put out a couple of solo records on John Zorn's label, like early, and the first one he put out, Adult Themes for Voice, is just all just sound effects that he'd made that he was just doing with vocal manipulation, delay pedals, all sorts of stuff that he was like kind of doing. And then that really definitely inspired me to like go like buy delay pedals and like start using effects on my vocals to really try to like do vocal manipulation. Manipulation and stuff like that. That album in particular was a big influence.
I think when I was really getting into Patton, the point, and I'm getting like goosebumps even just like thinking about it. That's how like big of an influence this was on me. But I remember I caught
You're giving me goosebumps.
I caught a YouTube video of him performing with Tomahawk, and he had like the gas mask with like the CB radio or whatever hooked up to it, and that just blew my fucking mind. I was like, I have never seen shit like that before. Like, and I was trying to do vocals at that time too, and I was just like, I quit. Like, I'm done. Like, that's it. Like, I'm never going to be that good.
Yeah, totally. And I think like now, one of the things that unifies us, like as far as like our influences, is a lot of our friends, is a lot of like our contemporaries, bands that we play with, our buddies like Cleric, Car Bomb, our buddies Beast Modulus, just a lot of bands in like the New York scene that we play with a lot. They're just, they're such awesome players. They're such great people, and like they're so good at what they do. Like just having them, like it definitely inspires all of us, like to just be as creative. You know what I mean? It's like it's not like a competitive thing, but it's like oh man, like these guys are doing something really cool. Let's do something really cool too. Let's give let's you know what I mean? Let's get it.
Let's go home and do our homework.
Oh
yeah, right.
Yeah. We owe a lot to our peers, honestly.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, we do. Yeah.
And I had
I
had Greg from Car Bomb on here last year, and like just another band that, man, they're just doing something completely different, especially with that latest album too. Like the way that they're mixing like the weird like shoegaze stuff in with like just straight up Meshuggah, and it's like all over the place.
Oh yeah. And the vocals are just so good. It's like, oh man, Daphne's performance on that record is just mind-blowing.
I mean, without sounding hyperbolistic, like they really are one of those like perfect groups. Like the four of them work so well together. It's hard to imagine anybody else being in those positions. Like there's just that sense of like they all know what they're thinking while they're playing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like there's just that fuck, man. They're just so good.
Well, they connect live too. Like when you see them play, and like when we talk to them, they don't use click tracks and shit like that. It's all on feel. So it's like when you see them playing that kind of complicated music like that, so tightly, without like a click, without a guide or anything like that, it's just like. They're just so locked in. So like, to kind of like bounce off what Pete was saying is right. Their connection, their vibe together is just really perfect.
Yeah. Matt, what about you? Influences.
I mean, like going way back, I mean, probably like Metallica right off the bat. But, like then going forward, like Primus was a major influence on me. And then again, like Sherman was saying, like discovering like Mr. Bungle and all of the weird shit Patton was doing was mind blowing to me. Dream Theater is actually a really huge influence on me. And yeah, I mean, Meshuggah, gotta say it. Discovering those guys completely changed my life. And yeah, I mean, like as far as like earlier influences, and like I think those pretty much rounded out. But I'm always constantly looking for new things to listen to, or like things that interest me. So I mean, I could probably sit here and go on for hours, but I'll leave it at that now.
You and me both, man. That's what I do. Like just listening to like hundreds of albums constantly. There's so much stuff.
And you're
out
really
there.
good. And you're a really good listener too. Like we were like we were talking about like the review you did for 2020, and it was like, oh man, like dude, like this guy, like sometimes you read reviews, you get reviews, and it's nice, but you could tell like the reviewer like maybe just listened to it like once or like twice and just kind of just made some. But it's like, man, like it's like you dove into that shit, like you actually sat there and listened to it. It's like you knew what you were talking about, like as far as like the sounds and just like just like the approach and stuff like that. It was just really well put together.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that, and I strive for that. I think it also helps too, though, and this was another reason like I wanted to have you all on here, is I think we just like the same stuff too. so that like helped a lot. Was like, oh yeah, I think I know where these guys are coming from, and luckily I was right. And I always love those experiences too, where the band comes back to me and it's like, hey, you mentioned this band and you totally nailed it. Like that's exactly what I was going for. I feel so vindicated when that happens. Well, another order of business, too, before we start talking about the album. Since you mentioned the Dillinger Escape Plan, I just put up my like album tier list for the Dillinger Escape Plan, and that gets really divisive. That fan base in particular, like, man, I get some nasty comments from those Dillinger fans. Like, if you don't like the bands, if you don't like the albums the right way, then you're up on the crucifix, man. So
well, every album's perfect, man. Come on.
So I got to ask you all, what is the best Dillinger Escape Plan album, in your opinion?
Man, that's a tough question. I mean, like personally,
Calculating Infinity.
Yeah, it's pretty much the only answer.
I mean,
Calculating Infinity is so good,
solid.
and it's like, I mean, I guess just for the, at the time it was just so
and then if you
mind
want to
blowing.
go the artistic route, it's Option Paralysis. Done.
Yeah, Option Paralysis is a really good record too. Mish Machine really holds up. I mean, like, just going back and listening to all that stuff.
Mish Machine, I'm sorry, Dillinger fans. If the production on Mish Machine was way better, that would have been a different story. And I'm sorry, Greg, man, we were me and Jay were kind of really bummed when Greg came into the fold. We were Dimitri fans through and through, dude.
Well, we were big Dimitri fans, and
it was everything.
But Greg he has such a bigger range, though.
So you want to know what it was? It's like
it took a while. It seemed though.
It took a while to warm up to Greg for me and Jay particularly, because we were such huge Dimitri fans, and we were big fans of like that early era Dillinger. And
like the EP,
and then they did that EP with the Mike Patton. You know what I mean? That set the bar so high.
Yeah, man.
I'm
the best you ever had.
Right? You know what I mean? It's like Patton's like almost boasting about it. And then and then I remember hearing Miss Machine and like Panasonic Youth and Sunshine the Werewolf. I was like, yeah, these songs are cool. I'm like, that's pretty good. And I remember seeing Greg for the first time. His first show, actually. I remember me and my buddy Bob. Jay, you weren't there, were you? Were you at the show?
I wasn't at that one. No.
Yeah, me and my buddy Bob, we went to go see this Dillinger. This is their first show with Greg, and it's so funny. They opened the show with two of those Mike Patton songs, but they played them as instrumentals. So like they heightened the I guess the suspense to revealing Greg. And then after they played, I think it was Hollywood Squares, which was the second one. they went right into Sugar Coated Sour, and Greg came out like a ball of fire, bro. He just,
Dude, he's a fucking
you know,
bear.
he was just yeah, and he was just like back then, and he's in great shape, but like back then, he was humongous.
Yeah.
Like he was like King Kong, bro. He came out and just like literally just like arms just as big as anyone's head there, and just came out, just went nuts. It was pretty crazy. But I guess just like listening to him on the album and stuff like that. I guess we're just comparing him too much to Dimitri and just like and that Patton performance, and it kind of was just like I don't know, and kind of fell out of it. And then it was just like it wasn't until like revisiting Option Paralysis where it was just like, holy shit, man! Like, first of all, I haven't listened to Dillinger in a long time, so it's like, wow, this band is so awesome. These guys are so crazy. And then, but like, I was just like, wow, Greg is really coming to his own as a singer.
Yeah.
And
he really
like, he's
his solo work is
you can hear the
interesting,
develop.
too.
Oh man, I really love his last solo album, the one he put on Federal Prisoner.
Yeah.
I can't remember the name. Is it Child Soldier? Or
Child
like
Soldier, something of God or whatever. It has like a long title with a colon.
Yeah, it is great. I love that. It's one of my favorite records of the year so far. It's so diverse. There's so much on it. So many flavors of Greg.
That was my one. When I did the review, that was my one criticism of it. Is it feels more like kind of like a compilation to me, but every song individually is really good. So
no, I think it's just like an anthology of Greg. You have to kind of look at it like that. Like it's just an anthology of his, what he does and the kind of work he does. And I think it was really awesome. I liked being surprised from track to track during that first listen. I was actually pretty pumped about that. I guess Dillinger records where I compare. I would have to say Calculating. Just because it was just so important. It was just so important to like the development of me as a musician and just like my understanding of music and shit.
This is the argument I always get into though, because like I agree that it deserves that status of being such a like watershed album, and their musicianship just evolved so far beyond that album too. So it's hard for me to like call it the best album. Like for me, like I remember the first time I put on Miss Machine and Panasonic Youth came on, and just like getting blown to pieces by that opening.
That song's crazy.
And then One of Us is the killer too. Like I think that one is almost like it does a lot of the stuff I like about pretty much every album, plus with better production too. So like that one ranks pretty high for me as well.
But
they're all good.
They had less of the electronic stuff.
Yeah,
they were doing in those like weird electronic, which was cool and all. But
there's some cool drumming on there
every
though.
night.
I always forget the song, but they've got that one song on One of Us is the Killer with the like. There's a little drum breaks.
I wouldn't if you did.
So something like that.
That's one of my favorite.
I love that song.
That's a fantastic song. Oh my god. I wouldn't if you didn't. I think it's called. I don't know, Greg.
Great deep cut, man.
But Greg really definitely developed over time. I'll say that. That's all.
He's great.
He's
one of my favorite vocalists of all time now. At this point, like for sure.
We I don't know. We had a hard time with him in the beginning, but he definitely did himself.
We were hard up Dillinger fans.
Yeah. Well, and I can hear too how he's like taken on his own kind of Patton influences, and then also he's clearly like a big Nine Inch Nails fan too, and like even got up and played that one song with them live. I think I can't remember what show. That
Wish.
Was, but yeah, and
well, they toured with them. They supported Nine Inch Nails.
Yeah.
One of those.
He's got a lot of R&B influence too, and stuff like that.
Oh yeah, for sure. He's just, and then like the like 80s synth pop kind of stuff going on there. And
Oh yeah.
All great. Cool.
Ooh, thank you, Dillinger. Thank you
yeah, for sure.
Yeah, man.
Well, let's talk about this album. We should probably get into it. So I don't even know where to begin with this thing, man. So maybe you all can tell me. Where should we start?
Talk to Matt.
It was a long and arduous process, but a great one. No, I mean, we started writing a lot of these songs, like maybe a year or two after the last record came out? Does that sound right?
I would say, I think remember getting the demo for Apperceptive Mass, I think in 2016. I think I remember that. And I know ideas for Old Familiar had been going around for a while. Like Jay has had like some of those samples and those ideas. That might have been floating around prior to that, but
It was like 2012, I would say.
oh yeah, so Old Familiar's
that song,
been
that's the oldest.
Old-
That's the oldest.
yeah, that song's been around for a while.
Yeah.
But yeah, I remember receiving the Apperceptive Mass demo in 2016. I would say that solidified the beginning of working on this record.
Wasn't Incognition before that?
Incognition was the first song we started writing
Was
after
it?
the TKV.
CC threw that at us like, what year is that, man? 2015, 16?
I want to say
Jesus.
2015.
It might have been
Oh, damn.
20. I honestly don't remember.
I know, it's so long ago.
I think I had gotten a new Ibanez 8-string. I think that was the thing I threw together using that guitar. Yeah, but anyway, so obviously we're very slow in terms of going
Hey, quality over quantity, though. That's what I'll always say.
Exactly.
We're deliberate.
But no, so early last year we started doing pre-production on our own in our rehearsal space. We managed to map like everything out, all the tempos. We did scratch tracks for everything at the rehearsal space. Then we kind of took all of that, and me and Volpe did the guitars at my place. So then we were able to take those dry tracks, go to the studio. We already had everything laid out, so we were basically able just to re-record the whole thing with Kevin. And it was very smooth. It worked very well.
At that point. It was very smooth at that point.
Yeah.
Minus the 5 years leading up to. Writing these songs, we literally recorded every single practice. And Matt would take it home. We multi-tracked everything. He would doll it up and send it over. And we'd listen to it and go back and week after week and just rehash these songs over and over and over again. And there was a big time period where Jay went off and did wonderful work with Dead Empires and Circuit of Suns and toured the country and just did his thing and refined his art. Well, we were just home, the three of us, week after week, hacking away at these songs for years, really. And we had this, and we played a lot less shows, and we had to play less shows. We're a band that we have to play. If we play live shows, we're not making progress on writing material, so we had to stop playing live shows.
Huh.
Right.
But Jay had to go and do his thing, which was so awesome because it made him such a, man. Thank you, Jay, for running across the country and back and wherever the hell you did. But
Hey man, I got a headbang somewhere, you know what I mean?
Yeah. But we did our thing at home, and we're happy with the outcome. Yeah.
Yeah, and I gotta ask, I mean, speaking of Apperceptive Mass, how the fuck did you get Jordan Rudess on that song?
Go ahead, Jay. That's Jay's buddy.
He's my friend. I tune his piano. I'm a piano technician. So somewhere.
Dude, that's that's a great
somewhere
story.
down the road back,
Oh my god.
many years ago, I walked to his house. Walked into his house, and I was like, oh my god, this is the keyboardist from Dream Theater, and he's the coolest guy, And year after year, I mean, he's honestly has more questions about my band than I do about his band. It's nuts, I'm just like,
That's
man,
so
this
cool.
guy really is down to earth and stuff. So it was just the right opportunity where I was like, look, what do you think? Are you into it? And he was cool with it.
That's awesome.
So yeah. And Matt wrote the song, Matt wrote the part, Matt wrote everything, and I was just like, gave Jordan the chart, and I was like, here you go. And he just, oh my god.
Of course, man.
Yeah, so I have to say, and as I mentioned before, Dream Theater is a huge influence on me. So
Yeah.
it was extremely awesome to, like Volpe suggested it, like, hey, maybe I'll ask Jordan to do this, and I was like, yeah. Of course, please do that. And like in the back of my mind, thinking like he's never gonna do this. No, and then like getting the news, like, yeah, he's gonna do it. It was like, holy shit, like that's like a fucking dream come true for me, man.
Well, I'm still even stuck on the idea of going to this legendary player's that to me that's like Jimi Hendrix handing me his guitar and being like, "Hey, tune this for me." Like, what? Like, I don't know. That's just crazy to me. That's a great story. I love shit like that on here too. Like, I don't know if you all caught that album from Tala that came out like last month. But Mike Portnoy's son has this like it's like a new metal band, which to me, like in this era, initially I was like, oh, that sounds really cringe. But they got this amazing vocalist that I had on the podcast, and he told me all these hilarious stories. But he's like a vocal coach too, so like he loves to like play with his voice and do all sorts of weird stuff with it, and it's all over the album. He does all these weird vocal techniques, and then they did a lot of attention to detail with the drums, like just getting the ping on the snare just right. Like I guess he like put a new head on the snare every time they recorded because they just wanted to get that sound. But he told me this hilarious story that just reminded me of this same thing where Mike Portnoy reached out to the vocalist to be like, hey, he like came across him on YouTube or something. And so Mike Portnoy reaches out to him as this like, hey, my son has a band, like, do you want to be in it? And he didn't know who Mike Portnoy was. So he was like, who's this fucking boomer, like, asking me to be in his son's band? Like, this is lame. So he just sort of ignored it. And then, like, later on, like, luckily, he reached out again and then, like, looked him up and realized who the fuck this guy was. And, like, one of the greatest drummers of all time. It was like, maybe I should respond to this. So now, like, yeah, he's in this band and hangs out with Mike Portnoy and his son, and told me about all the cringy dad jokes that he makes when he's at their shows and stuff. It's great. But anyways, yeah. What? But so with 2020 though, like, why, beyond just like, you know, the stuff with Dead Empires and the recording process, why so long though? Like, what was the exact reason for that?
Why did it take so long?
Yeah.
Well, initially, I mean, it's kind of like what Volpe said before too. Like, if we're playing shows, we're not really. And like when we did TKV, like we spent 2 years playing lots of shows and not working on new material. So there's that.
By the way, that album is the only one of I think 2 10 out of 10s I've given.
Crazy.
On the site too. Like, Truth, Knowledge, Vision is my shit.
Yeah, man. Thank you. Sincerely, thank you for that.
Yeah.
No, but you know, this is not our occupation, you know? Like, we're not on a label or anything. Each of us had major strides in our personal lives over the past, you know, handful of years, so that took precedent over the band. But when you're in a band for 20 years and we're as a tight-knit group as we are, the music's always going to be there, the band's always going to be there, so we didn't always have to have practice every week. We didn't always have to play shows because we knew it would always be there, and we do it that long. So, you know, when we have a lot more. We have. We're looking forward. We have a lot more material.
So I hear. Yeah.
It's going to be.
I think the turnover will be quicker.
There were supposed to be 3 more songs.
It definitely won't be 6 years.
Yeah, there were supposed to be 3 more songs for this album. You know, we were supposed to record in August, but the whole nonsense happened this year, so that slowed us down. And we had to close the book on this batch of songs.
Yeah.
You know, it was time. It was just like,
well,
they're done. You know.
And I honestly like appreciate that. I think too many bands like almost stretch the length of their album because I feel like there's almost like this expectation that, oh, our album should be like, you know, at least like 45, 50 minutes or whatever. And I find that like I tend to be more impressed generally with the albums that are in that like 35 or so minute range because they're just so much tighter too. Like even when I look back at some of my favorites from back in the day, like Lamb of God as the Palaces Burn, like, has been one of my favorite albums for a long time, and that's like a 35-minute album. Like, it's just super tight. There's no dead weight on it, and like, trim the fat. That's what I say. Like, as a result, this album is just like lean and mean, despite having, you know, an 8.5-minute song on it, and another one that's like almost 7 minutes. But like, there's no wasted time. Like, and you appreciate every second of it more because by the time it's over, I'm ready to just hit repeat and start from the beginning again.
Yeah, thank you.
And it allows the listener to kind of delve into this stuff more because there's not so much. It's not like this daunting task. Like listening to it all over again. You know, it's
Yeah.
like, oh man, there's 50 minutes of just being bludgeoned in the face. You know, it's like it's quick. You can really sink your teeth into it. You know, and I think another thing too is the way people consume music. You know, we don't consume music like we did 20 years ago, where you put an album out.
Yeah.
You know, like there's a lot of streaming and digital stuff. So, we just felt that the 5 songs stood, really strong on their own, and that's what you get.
Yeah. Well,
That's
and
all you're gonna get, son.
and as a reviewer too, I mean, to be fair, I think I appreciate that too, because I just have so much to listen to. So it's like when I get something and it's like 20 minutes, sick, I'm in. Like I'm gonna make the most out of it.
Yeah, I might even be able to do a second review today.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Crank them out. I have done that too.
I guess to just piggyback a little bit about what Pete was talking about with like how we consume music nowadays. That was actually one of my original ideas as far as the release for 2020. We actually had we weren't going to release it as an album, at least not initially. Our plan was just to release it as a series of singles, over the course of the year.
Okay.
And then just and then compile the singles
Protest the Hero
together.
did.
Similar, yeah, like that, or how Health just did over the past year and a half with all their collaborations they've just did. They just released a record of all those singles that they just put out over the past year and a half. So it was an idea like that, because I feel like metal and just rock in general is just so kind of antiquated in kind of the way where it's just so stuck on just that mindset of we have to do an album, we have to do I think you even mentioned it in your review about they get stuck on that 2-year album cycle. It's there's all that and it's just you want to know what other genres, rap, pop, even country, indie rock, all sorts of stuff, people are just putting out singles or just quick EPs, 2-song kind of things or whatever. System of a Down just put out that 2-song thing. It's just it's just quick, it's digestible, and it's right. It's if we're not necessarily doing a physical release, I don't necessarily think there's need to have this bloated album, a 40-50 minute kind of thing. Something around 30 minutes is definitely a really good length for a release.
Gojira just dropped that single too, and there was no talk of it being attached to an album. I don't know if it's going to be or not, but it was kind of nice to just get a taste, solid song, get you, keep them in your brain, and you'll be ready for the next one. You're always anticipating more.
Yeah, always leave them wanting more.
Yeah, that's what you want to do.
Definitely.
Yeah, better that than being okay, there's too much. There's filler on here. And even some of my favorite bands, I love the Black Dahlia Murder, but I definitely like certain albums way more than others, because I feel sometimes they hit that 2-year mark and it's okay, it's album time, and I'm I don't feel like you were ready yet. I'm not sure that this is I don't love Verminous, to be honest, the latest one. It's okay. There are some songs on it I really love, but maybe waiting another year or two would have made it an even better album.
Right, yeah, they could have refined it, or right, exactly.
Yeah.
Trim some of that fat. That was another thing too about 2020. It was also, I remember bringing up to Jay specifically, and then we talked to the rest of the band about it. Was just trimming the fat. Was not doing the musical interludes that we did in TKV, stuff like that, where it was just okay, yeah, we kind of just don't want to do that. It was just wanted to be as raw and as honest as possible. That was another theme of the record, was just this brutal honesty.
Yeah, even to the point where it started immediately. We've always had a little bit of buffer, a little bit of ooh, what's coming.
No, you just kicked right into it in this one.
Yeah.
Yeah, full on scream, double bass,
Yeah, all of it.
In the first 10 seconds, you know what you're gonna
get.
Yeah.
What other do you all have kind of favorite songs on this album overall?
I mean, you kind of love all the same, but I kind of love the songs all the same. But I guess I do love Old Familiar. I don't know. I was very happy with how the vocals came out on that track. and just also I guess just how it sounds in general, like the overall sound of it. So I would say Old
very
Familiar.
different. Old Familiar is definitely kind of a departure from what I guess you would expect from us. It's a little bit more of that electronic, and again, like talking about deriving stuff and being influenced by our peers. Like I was listening to it the other day, and I was like, man, like if you were to approach me like years ago before we met this band Bangladeshi, and you were like, listen, the song's going to be a sampler, drums and bass, I'd be like, that's ridiculous. Like, how is that a song? But like, seeing Bangladeshi, and it's just literally
sick.
a bassist, a drummer, and a keyboard, and it rocks. It was like, oh, like that's okay, and the song is awesome, But again, like as far as the drums go, I was kind of in that mindset of like, like that Bangladeshi kind of mindset for the drums for that one, and it is a little different than what we normally do, and it's great.
Yeah. The Primal Wound personally is like, I don't know, man. I just think, I don't know. I'm really proud of that one. Period.
Song's heavy.
I would agree with Jay. I think that's my favorite song on the album. I think it encapsulates kind of what we are in a nutshell as a band, because there's a lot going on, but it all flows together. It's really organic and natural, but it really takes you on a ride.
Yeah.
Got ups and downs. It's got that cool little groovy like cruising with the top down section in the middle with me and Matt rocking out, and
the 311 part.
311 part.
And then,
the 311 part
blows up.
I heard someone say 311 part.
Oh my
Yeah,
god.
like when we were recording that, Kevin, our producer, had joked around about us. He kept calling that the 311 part.
That's funny.
Man.
Now there's an influence I did not pick out.
Actually,
Nah, dude, we all love 311.
Yeah.
We're all big 311 fans. We'll be honest.
Not the new stuff, but
Do they have new stuff? I don't even know.
Yeah, they keep pumping out albums,
Wow,
bro.
I
Those
didn't know,
guys
man.
are
Way
fucking
too much.
road
I'm
dogs.
all about like the come original era, like all that kind
that
of
was
stuff.
That was sound
Yeah.
system. So sound system, and before that,
Sound
Yeah.
System,
311 was.
Transistor. No, I mean the Blue album's real fucking awesome.
That was all
311.
before that. Yeah.
Oh, that's all before that? Oh,
I still jam to Down too. Like I've got a 90s playlist
that
that I
song's so
love
good.
playing, and like Down, every time that comes on I get so hyped. I'm like, yeah.
It's that part where he's slamming on that fucking china.
Yeah,
man, what-
And the rapping
Voted
is
one
so
of the most
corny, but it's so
snare
hype
drum
at the
sounds.
same time. Oh yeah. I wasn't sure if everyone had shared their favorite song yet.
Oh, Matt, yeah, what would you say?
No, I'd probably go with the Primal Wound too, and there's really not much else I can say that hasn't been said. But I will say Incognition is probably the funnest song to actually play. It's just, for me anyway, I don't know. It's so fun to play.
Incognition's a song that actually changes every single time that we. The structure's the same, but between what me and Jay does with his, stuff, it changes every time. Like so, it's
basically,
kinda cool.
basically, me and Jay just improvise over what
Oh, that's
Matt
cool.
and Pete are doing.
Yeah, it's cool. It's an exciting song to play. Yes, for sure.
That's fun though. You get an original experience each time. I want to hear more too about the vocals on this album. Like there are some crazy moments on here for sure, and I just want to hear your thoughts on kind of like where what are your favorite vocal moments on this album, and like what's like influenced them. What was your thought process going into some of them? All that.
I guess just like writing. I had mentioned before when I was talking about like my influence and stuff, that I write like the phrasing and like the basic structure, and like almost like just like the sound too, like almost like the syllables that I'm going to be using. It's kind of like that almost, where like I kind of plot out what I want to do before I pen any lyrics to this. And so So yeah, I guess like, just going through it, it's funny. It's like when we listen back to a lot of those like practice recordings and stuff like that, like the rehearsals and stuff like that, and you listen to me scream along to some of these songs, and it's just like it's just
Gibberish.
unintelligible. Yeah, gibberish. It's just like me just kind of figuring it out as we
That's
go
cool.
along. But I guess yeah. So it's just like so when I was writing these, yeah, it was just basically just doing that, just listening to songs over and over again. I really find myself being very drawn to the patterns of the drums, specifically the snare drum. And I really like to emphasize like some of those attackier hits. It's like especially like the more staccato parts, like I guess like that part in the Primal Wound, where it's like it's like almost like I'm trying to like blast beat there. It's like what I mean. It's like almost trying to like create that illusion. It's like so it's I really like that connection between the vocals and the drums. I think like it can be very effective.
Yeah.
So it's another reason why I really like Old Familiar a lot too, because really think like the drums are locked in like with the vocals on that too. Like the bass, the drums, and the vocals are very much locked in on that.
I'll say one thing about Old Familiar, to equate it to a song that listeners may know. I don't know the song, but on Converge's Jane Doe album, Jay, there's a track that's just like drums and vocals.
Oh yeah. What is it? Phoenix in Her Arm or something like that.
Yeah.
One of those like.
But anyway, there's a track on Jane Doe that's so sick, and it's just drums and vocals. So with Old Familiar.
Wait. You're telling me there's a Converge song that's sick? Are you?
Yeah, they did it. They were able to do it once. All right.
So sick.
No way.
The song without guitar or bass. And all right, you got
no. You're good though. I love Jane Doe.
So
I'm trying to remember the song now
too. That was also part of a reason why I was just like, I'm not going to play any guitars on this. I'm just going to keep the samples because the bass and the vocals and the drums, it has worked in the past. I've heard it's worked in the past, so let's run with it. So yeah, Old Familiar really is an interesting song for us, and I almost see it being a direction we're going to take moving forward more so.
Right. Yeah. Musically speaking, for sure.
Yeah. Less guitars.
Then I guess yeah, just like certain things like Incognition in particular, like I'd bounce back and forth between writing vocals on it or not. These guys every time rehearsals would come, hanging out rehearsal, and Jay would be like, "So you got any vocals for that Incognition?" He's always like kind of like bugging me about it, and I was just like, I don't know. I'm thinking about like just having it be instrumental and just like doing. But I had that one part. There is the one part that I do the vocals in that song, and that is one part where I was like, okay, like I do want to do something there. Yeah. That's the thing. Like sometimes like Matt or Jay, they do. Like I want to say like 99% of the songwriting. So it's like, they'll, when they come to us with like a song, like or whatever, it's like, I'll listen to it and I'll be like, sometimes like initially right off the bat, I'll be like, I know exactly what I want to say or like what I'm going to do right in this part. Like it's just like, oh, like immediately. So like I kind of knew early on that I was going to do vocals there. But I was kind of like, oh man, I really kind of want to give a break because the lyrical content is like very heavy. Like it's like a kind of like really pulling from like a lot of my like personal experiences dealing with like mental health and stuff like that. So it's like again with the theme of like honesty and stuff like that, like it was just a lot of the lyrical content is like very like heavy to digest. So again, Incognition coming at the end of the record, it was almost just like, oh man, like it's kind of like a break. Like I don't necessarily need to like go into like something like so deep, so heavy. Like I can like just make sound effects. I can kind of just like play the keyboard there, like really carry the song in a different way rather than just like vocally and stuff like that.
Yeah. Well, I thought it was cool too that you'd like, I thought listening to it, it was just going to be a straight up instrumental song, but the fact that you had like that, like just one moment with the vocals, like made that moment like really stand out too. Like it kind of like punctuates that part and makes it that much more potent. And just hearing you talk too in general about how you write your vocals, I think it's becoming more and more apparent to me like why I really gravitate to, I mean, the sound of the band overall, but I think one of the things that irritates me the most when I hear sort of what I consider to be kind of a bad vocal performance is when they've written out the lyrics to such a degree that they're so married to them that they're like trying to jam every single word and like force it into the song.
I
And
know
it just,
exactly what you're talking about.
it just feels like wrong. It like totally takes me out of the experience every time I hear that. I think that's particularly a problem. Like I love certain concept albums, but I feel like this kind of plagues those in many ways because they've got like this pre-written story and they're like, okay, we got to say all the things. And so they're like trying to cram it all in and it just comes off as like, I don't know. I feel like there's a few bands that are just really good at it. Like Coheed like has just gotten really good at kind of balancing like the story with making it catchy songwriting too. But yeah, I think it makes sense to me more to start with like how am I going to plot out sort of the syllables and everything so that it fits the song, and then I'll figure out like what words kind of make the most sense to fit in there.
Right, too, because like because the songs are ever evolving too. That's kind of one of the reasons why like especially this record in particular, it was so hard for me to write at least initially the first few years for the tracks, because like we'd come in, and songs would change week to week. Like we would constantly be working on stuff, and then like we'd tweak stuff. So it'd be tough to like write. Just for me anyway, it just felt like it would be tough to write stuff and then have to come back like a week later and then be like, oh shit, like now I gotta adjust it. Now I gotta change what I'm writing. So it's like better to get like the final like version what these guys are gonna do, or at least like the skeleton of what these guys are gonna do. And then it's like, okay, now it's like, all right, let me write off what Pete's doing here with the snare and the bass. Let me, Jay's doing this cool sound effect here with his guitar, so let me try to like either match that or just be quiet in general, just so it could let the guitar take over in that part. I really like to try to think of the song holistically before I put my vocals on there, because like I just don't want it to be like the Jay Sherman show, like you know what I mean, just be like all about, you hear some bands where it's just like all about like the vocal. You could tell the vocalist, he's got a lot to say, and it's just like kind of wants to make it all about him, and just will try to cram in vocals over every single section. It's just like, all right, so I kind of want to try to have that balance where it's like, all right, again, I don't want the vocals to be like kind of like overtake the rest of the music, because these guys, it's just so talented and there's so much awesome stuff going on besides the vocals. So it's like I do like try to take moments where I step back and make sure that stuff is like heard. And then also when we do play live, there are certain parts where it's like, all right, I specifically do not want to do any vocals here because I just want to headbang.
Or just take a break.
Yeah, well, I mean, taking a break, it's like whatever, but it's like, nah, man, this part is just so good. Like, I just want to feel it live. I don't want to have to do anything here. I just want to be able to just headbang.
I like how you describe like it comes across in the music. You all play as a unit. Like it very much feels like you're all part of this machine kind of together. And I interviewed this other band from Chicago, Warforged, that I get like a similar feel from.
Yeah, CC.
Yeah, no, I like those guys a lot. Dude, that voice is fucking unreal.
Yeah, dude, voice is. Yeah, check out that. You might want to listen, not to promote my own podcast too much, but listen to the episode. That was one of my favorite episodes to this day. Was and one of the last times I had like a full band in here. Really was or I had like half of them because they're a pretty big group. But yeah, they were really funny. And then also just hearing them talk about like all the thought, and they had a similar experience to you too, because voice took several years for them to put together too. I want to say it was at least 4 years, maybe longer.
That's good to know.
And yeah, and it came together so well. And that's another great example of like just the whole band really, you can tell that they're thinking through like, how is my part going to actually like complement everyone else in the full composition? And that's a phenomenal album that doesn't get enough respect.
It is.
Like that to me was probably like the best album of that year. But
I think I heard, I forget, maybe the second track, the name is escaping me. I think I heard that like a week or two before it came out. And then randomly I was on YouTube and I saw they put out like that full length music video for the entire
record. The whole album. Yeah.
And I sat there, I watched the whole thing. My mind was blown. I remember texting Volpe. I was like, you gotta check this shit out and wait for the kid to go to sleep.
It's so good, and it's like so heartfelt too, and it was again like talking to them, it gives me this, even though it's like their experience, not mine, having the context behind it, because they talked about how like, yeah, this member changed over the course of the album, and they like lost some people and then like brought new people on and had these like life experiences along the way, and a lot of that gets like captured in the music video, where you see members, some members are here and then they're not there, and they're like, where did they go? And then like they have like random video from like other things that they were doing at that time, and it's just like this very kind of real experience that fits the whole flow of the album too really well. And you know, speaking of which, like I like tight, concise albums, and when I get an hour and 13-minute album in my mailbox, I'm kind of like, oh fuck, like I don't know if I'm ready for this. But with that one, like it just sucked me in, and it doesn't feel like that long of an album, honestly, to me. Like it goes by so fast, and it's so great. Good. But yeah,
very interesting.
Yeah,
very interesting. Real quick, just back to Jay. Real quick, back to Jay's vocals. I mean, with the Primal Wound, we rewrote that song over there like 3 to 4 years. We didn't hear any vocals on it until after we recorded it, and then Jay went in and dropped his vocals. That was the first vocals we ever heard from it. Was like the final vocals, and that was just like the craziest. I don't know. I mean, just to. All those years of writing that song, and then for Jay to just be like, okay, it's here. And it's like, you fucking maniac. You fine. Be silent for as many years as you want. If this is your product, brilliant.
Yeah. I'm working. I was you know, shit.
That's the thing.
I had to get in the shed, bro. You know.
And you know, I'm like, yeah, whatever. Well, Jay delivers every time. It's nuts. It's fun. It's a lot of fun. The final product is very rewarding for us because, you know, it's a long process. A lot of bands go in and they're like, all right, we're in the studio for 2 months, we're done. You know, we're gonna write it and record the album in 2 months and be done. That's 2 months of your life experience crammed into an album. Fine, you know, we'll take 5 years of our life experience and throw it into 30 minutes.
Yeah,
take it or leave it. Done.
I think when it came to the recording process itself, we were very streamlined. Where like Matt was talking about it before, how like you know, we did most of the stuff at Matt's house before we even did the, you know, we did a lot of the guitars and stuff prior to going in, and then we just did basically the drums and the vocals at Kevin's. Did some like reamping and stuff there, but we basically imported just like most of the tracks. From just the stuff that we did at home, and it's just been like that's been our studio experience the past couple times. Is we're just trying to be as streamlined as possible, trying to be as budget efficient as possible. Costs a lot of money to be in the studio, you know what I mean? So it's like, you know, especially a band like us that, like, you know, we don't necessarily see a financial return. So it's like, you know, we do this as a labor of love. So it's like, you know, we want to be able to do it, you know, efficiently. We want to be able to do it, you know, and, you know, cost effectively also too. So I think that is, as far as like the recording process goes, you know, like it might have taken us like 5.5, 6 years to write this stuff and get it finished, but the recording process was very quick. So it was like, you know, quick turn. We weren't, the thing that took the longest, I think, was the mixing, you know, because we're just, we're perfectionistic.
Well,
we're just like, you know,
you can hear
we get the
too,
mixes
though.
back and we're just like, you know, this one reverb effect isn't right in the, you know, for 1 second in this track here. So this has got to change. You know, it's just ruining the whole track. You know, it's like.
Well, I mean, you hear it, and it's worth taking the time, because I can't tell you how many times I've heard an album where I'm like, if this sounded better, it would be a great album, but the mixing is shit, so it kind of like ruins it. Like, it'll distract. Fuck you, dude. You just had to come full circle on that, didn't you?
And you want to, God bless Kevin, dude. You know, the guys, you know, we've said this before, like, you know, he's like our George Martin. He's like our fifth Beatle, bro. It's like, he just knows our sound. He knows what we want. Like, you know what I mean? He knows how to deal with us too. Like, he knows, like, you know, he's like, all right, like, you know, it's like Torrential's coming in. He's like, all right, I know the mixing process is going to be, you know,
a bitch.
It's going to be intense, but, you know, but he deals with it, and he's such a trooper. And, you know, what can I say, man? Like, the final product is just so good. Well, it's one of the reasons why we recorded the last 3 records with him, and why we will most likely plan on recording with him in the future. It's like,
well, you know what you want and you're paying for it, so you got to get it. You got it.
Yeah.
At the end of the
And
day,
the fact that he just knows our band so well too. It's like after working with him for the past 3 records, he's just got such a rapport with us, and just he knows our sound, he knows what we want. So the recording process goes over very easy too with Kev.
I think other people are noticing it too, because like I know, I'm not exactly sure when I'm going to put this episode up, but I think just this week as we're recording this, Mathcore Index featured your track on their Mathcast podcast, and as they were talking about the track too, they were also highlighting like everything sounds massive, like and I agree, like everything on here, so that's hard to pull off because like there's a lot of things going on, and I hear a lot of bands like try to do a lot of stuff and it all gets muddled together and it just ends up sounding like just like noise. But here, like every individual note of every instrument, like just explodes, and like you can pick out every part of it, and it's excellent. Like, it really is.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you, and thank you, Kevin. Thank you, Kevin.
Somebody gets it.
Yeah, somebody gets it out there, man.
What about
we're just a bunch of dudes, man. We're not like seriously, we're like all best friends just doing some music, we're not like we're a band, we're gonna tour the world, we're gonna take over everything. We're just hanging out in New Jersey, whatever. This is the byproducts.
Yeah, I think it's funny. It's like we never necessarily had like a real agenda as far as like as being in a band. Like we did some business stuff, especially when we put out TKV. We got a little bit more business oriented as far as like shows and like it's like promotion stuff. We like hired a PR agent and stuff like that. But like we've all just kind of just been along for the ride. Like as far as like a band, like we just at first like we're all just friends. You know what I mean? Like we're all like best, we're like brothers even. At this point, like we've known each other all for well over 20 years, and it was just like at a point where it's just like we show up to rehearsal, and the first hour and a half of rehearsal is just us fucking bullshitting. We don't even play music. We haven't touched a note. We get together. We show up at like 8 o'clock, and it's like 9:15 by the time we actually start playing. It's like, oh, we got to stop by 10. It's like, oh shit, we basically blew the whole rehearsal just chilling. But whatever, that's fine with me.
That might be
Sounds
another
great.
reason why it takes so long for us to put albums out.
That's so true. That's exactly it.
We got to start the bullshit hour at 6 o'clock, guys. All right, 6 o'clock, and jam no later than 8.
Sounds like a good time to me. I love it.
Yeah, no, totally. So it's like, I mean, so I guess, we're friends first and a band second. So I would say that's another reason why, like it takes us a little while, but whatever, we get it done.
Yeah. And
we enjoy doing it.
It pays off. Yeah. Well, we highlighted the vocals. Any particular moments from the drums, the guitar, the bass, the keys that also like you're all particularly proud of or can't wait to play live at some point?
Anyone?
That's the longest gap of silence we've had this whole time.
Man, all you guys are just amazing. No, I mean, like, I guess just like overall, just like all around, like just the performances. I love, like, I've always been a fan. I've said this for a long time. I've always been a fan of Jay's whammy work. I've said this a lot, like his work with the whammy pedal and how he can bend and shift his guitar to make these just inhuman sounding pitches and shit like that. Just like, it's just mind blowing. Especially his work on Insufferable, in particular, is just like, it's just really just like so crazy. Like the end, like the crescendo, like with all those like high screeching guitars. It's like I'm listening to it and I'm like, I almost have to like rip the headphones off because it's so overwhelming. It's like, whoa, what the fuck is happening? It's just like,
Thanks, man.
I guess also it's one of my favorite. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, sorry. It's actually not on this record. There's not much whammy pedal at all, as opposed to our previous stuff. Like it's all like pitch shifting in general. We take vocally on the vocal effects and the guitar effect. We take a lot from the pitch shifting side of things, especially from Cave-In Jupiter type stuff. Jay, what's the Boss PS2?
The PS3, yeah, specifically. PS3. the PS3, a digital delay pitch shifter. There's
That's
like
the
there's a
pedal,
couple of
you know.
settings on there, right?
But it's all, pitch shifting is a huge part of it in terms of the guitar effects. But I specifically shied away from using the whammy pedal, quote unquote, on this one as opposed to previous releases and stuff. But love that bass tone. Man, that bass tone sounds really good.
Yeah.
Yeah, it does.
It's awesome.
Yeah, CC's
That's
tone is incredible. I was gonna jump to Old Familiar real quick because I was gonna say like the bass work on Old Familiar is just so good. Remember we were like demoing that track, and basically like that track when we were demoing it, it's just been like just a collection of samples that Jay had for the longest time. It was just like this series of samples and these programmed drums kind of that he had, this like sequence or whatever, and we were kind of like throwing it around, and finally when we were doing pre-production, we were able to get Pete to do drums to it, and we got that down. And then CC sent us like the bass, and I remember first hearing the bass for Old Familiar, and I was like, oh my god, man, this is so good. Like this totally just makes the song. Like it really does. Like it's like some of those like those runs that he does, and like oh man, it's just so sick. And the tone too, yeah, right. Like CC, like Matt's bass tone is just so incredible.
This is another track where it was like 2 years before we heard it. So it was just 2 years of just a sampler and drums, like over and over again, And then CC got his shit together, and once he threw that on, it was a totally different song, and Jay ran with it vocally. But the bass on that, listen to Old Familiar and the bass. Holy shit.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah, and Costa's drums are just solid as all hell. Just honed in, and me and Pete really, really worked hard.
We got it in the weeds and stuff
on this album.
Yeah,
I think
we finally understood how to write music with each other. Seriously, it's taken so long. It's not fun. It's not easy, but we get through it. But this album, me and Pete spent more time together than anybody to really hone in on every slight riff. So
yeah, things just had to lock up right.
Yeah,
I would say performance-wise, my favorite song from Pete is Incognition. I just love the drums on that. There's so many little touches. Fun. There's so many cool fills, and just like so many different changes and stuff. Yeah, just like the drums are just so heavy on that, and they really just like give that song that bouncy, like almost effervescent kind of like feel to it. This bubbly kind of like just like, makes you want to just bounce and stuff like that. It's like, the drums really have that like lift it up to that.
Yeah, that one's fun to play. It's like running a marathon for 5 minutes.
Well, you've only got yourself to blame.
Well, 5 minute marathon, that's an oxymoron there, Pete. There.
Yeah.
A 5 minute marathon. Sorry. Wow, thank you so much for digging into this shit with us, man. Nobody does this.
Yeah.
This is
no, man,
cool.
it's fun.
20
really
years
cool.
for somebody to be like, hey, your songs are kind of cool.
No, yeah, I love doing this, and I love like just the free. Like I know we're on like a million tangents, but I love that. Like I love to kind of just Joe Rogan it, so to speak. Like just you let it go wherever it's gonna go, and you learn a lot more about people. Yeah. Yeah. Well, speaking of which, though, I know like it's like a lot later there for you. So I don't want to, have you too late or whatever. So I could go forever. But is there more stuff you want to get into, or do you all have things that you need to take care of?
It's all good, man. I mean, was there anything else that you wanted to ask, or anything else that you had like in mind or whatever like that? It's all good.
I mean, I don't have like a ton of other specifics at this point that, I feel like you kind of covered it, like as we've been talking through it in terms of a lot of just, from the influences to everything. Yeah. No, that's great. I mean, that's again why I love having like as many band members in here as I can. It makes my life easier too. Like I don't have to say anything. Just let you all run with it. But I guess then, what can people look forward to kind of moving forward from here in terms of like, what's the plan?
Well, Well, yeah, I guess like it was mentioned before. I think Pete mentioned it. Yeah, we had like 3 other songs that we were originally going to do on this record, or like that we were going to do as part of the series of singles that we were going to release and then compile it as the record. So we have those. So like I guess yeah, the next step is to work on like finishing pre-production for those, and then just figuring out like I guess moving forward probably in 2021, just getting studio time and then getting on those and then doing a release. We definitely want to have a follow-up be much quicker, whether it just be like just these 3 songs just packaged and boom, just like just released as just like an EP or whatever it is. But it's like we definitely want to have
pack.
Right, exactly. Yeah, like we could call it 2021 or whatever like that. You know what I mean?
Back
Like
to school.
But
You get that?
But yeah, and then we also have another like a longer like a kind of like more like kind of like epic track that we've been like working on for a few years. Actually, we've been like kind of like demoing out and just kind of fucking around with a little bit. That I think like we were kind of just want to almost expand into just like a giant kind of like jam session, almost like an album length worth song. And we wanted with that was kind of more try to get in touch with like our older like jammier kind of selves, like our
like a
from our
Catch
first
33
record.
kind of situation, or
Not as tight as that. I would say some a little bit more looser, I guess, like some more I guess like
I
a
would
kid
say
like
I would say ISIS.
yeah, I would
Yeah.
say something more like an ISIS kind of thing, where it's like, just like
which was another huge influence on this band. We haven't mentioned ISIS, and back to Incognition. I feel like when Jay throws his vocals in Incognition, that's a huge ISIS like nod, man. Because ISIS will go like 4 minutes without any vocals, and then all of a sudden, bam, there's the vocals.
Boom, kicking
and
in,
it's
yeah.
just there for like a minute, not even, and then it's gone, and it's so perfect. So, yeah,
Nice.
ISIS is huge to us. So.
So yeah, I would say like yeah. So like I think we're kind of like working on that. Who knows when that's going to be done though? Like that's something.
Take your time.
We don't really have like a timeline for. But the other stuff, the other 3 songs, we definitely like have kind of like a preliminary timeline where we definitely want to try to get it at least recorded by next year.
Yeah.
At some point.
Cool. Awesome.
And then yeah, I mean like I don't know, as far as like getting out there and promoting it or playing and stuff like that, we don't have any plans of getting out there anytime soon, especially with like
Yeah.
the uncertainty of the pandemic and stuff like that. So we're in no rush to play shows and stuff like that at this point. So
Do a live stream or something. That'd be fun.
yeah, I mean that would mean that we'd actually have to practice.
Well, you could just have part of the live stream just be you guys fucking around. You know what I actually did think was kind of cool for a live stream was going back to Tala again. They did a live stream where they just played the record, and as they played the record, they just like commented over it, and they like paused it, and they're like, "Wait, go back to that part. That's the like dodgeball snare sound," and like they were just like fucking around and having a good time,
like almost,
and it was great.
Like
it was really entertaining.
commentary.
Yeah, it was really entertaining too. Like then they went off on tangents, and they're like, "Oh wait, we haven't like played part of the album in like 5 minutes. We should probably get back to." it was
That's
really
really
good.
great
Yeah.
idea actually. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, like a
That
listening
might be
party.
fun. Yeah. Something like
But
that.
with like
that would be
commentary,
entertaining.
because I love stuff like that. I love like anecdotal like stories from the from the studio, like stuff like that. Like any kind of like behind the scenes, like like oh man, that sound in there was a complete accident and shit. It's like something fell over in the background, but it happened to be recorded, and so we kept it in there because it sounded really cool and like shit like that, like stories like that. I love.
Yeah, me too. Man.
I eat that shit up.
Yeah, I love hearing that stuff, and on any kind of album too. Like I don't know if any of you are Dark Throne fans at all, but Fenris did commentaries for all of the Dark Throne albums, and it's on like a separate disc, and you can listen to it. And Fenris is just hilarious. Like he's of the like black metal personalities, he's like one of the few that like has a sense of humor and like isn't up his own ass all the time. Yeah, he's like hilarious, and so he's just like talking through the album. And half the time he's like shitting on his own record. He's like, "Yeah, this part really fucking sucks. Like I don't even really like any of these songs. I only like parts of this album or whatever." It's hilarious. It's great. I love commentary, man. It's so good.
It must be nice to be able to do that.
Yeah, man.
Nuts.
Well, John, I really appreciate you having us, dude. That's so
man.
awesome. Man. It's great to talk to you.
Yeah, and thank you very much.
Yeah, anytime too. Like, I love having repeat guests too, because we've kind of like, we've warmed up a little bit, like you said. You like you're saying with your sound guy, you like, you know each other. You've got kind of a relationship, and it's kind of cool when I have people come back. Like I've had Doug from Piron on here a couple times now too, and like it's
such a sweet dude.
Yeah, and he's another one too that'll just like, you just let him go and he'll just talk for just forever.
Yeah.
So it's great.
Yeah,
And
he's
always
got
something
good shit
new.
to say.
Oh
He's
yeah,
an interesting guy.
Oh yeah, I love Doug.
He's a
man.
smart dude too.
Yeah, I'm ready to like. He's putting out like 4 different albums this year too, with like different bands too. So I'm using every opportunity. I've already had him on for 2 different projects, and now he has that Glorious Depravity album coming up, and I'm like, might as well just have him back on again. Fuck it, he's always like a crowd pleaser too. So yeah, anytime.
He just did that collaboration with Frank's new band from Metal Injection. What the hell's the name of that? I keep wanting to say Soilwork, but that's not the name of it. It's Soil something, but it's Soil Nerve or something like that. Can't think of it off the top of my head. But he just did a guest appearance on that, which is really cool.
He said they're almost done with a new Sepidas album too. So it's just like
Soil,
cranking that shit out. Man, good shit. But yeah, anytime and like for any reason, would love to do this again. One last question that I always ask everyone who's on here. Since we're really focused on kind of highlighting underground acts, what do you feel like is like a more underground metal group that deserves a lot more attention than you feel like they're getting right now?
Cleric?
Yeah, Cleric, man. I agree with that.
Right off my fucking
for
head.
Sure.
I mean, God, dude, Cleric, come on.
Yeah, I think Cleric's
that's my vote right
now.
Yeah. Cleric's the shit.
I would say Cleric. Yeah, they're like one of our favorites, and they're such an amazing band. And yeah, I mean, just like off the top of my head, yeah, I would have to piggyback on that kind of.
Any others come to mind for?
I mean, Moontooth.
Anyone else?
They're getting there.
Moontooth, they're kind of blowing up though. They're doing really well for themselves. It's good to see that too, because we played a lot of shows with them as they were coming up, and just to see like how well they're doing is really inspiring. It's fucking awesome.
Yeah.
And I guess like we mentioned Bangladeshi before, like such a great band, such a unique sound. I think Car Bomb's starting to definitely get a lot more recognition, especially with the last release, for sure. Trying to think who else. Yeah, man.
Yeah.
Pete and Matt. Any?
I mean, I would also be Cleric. I think they're horribly underrated as far as like how far known they are. Like those guys are amazing.
Yeah.
And they're another band that once we started playing with them, like they influenced us a lot, and also we kind of saw them as like brothers in arms. It was like we played with them and we're like, wait, there's another band out there that like we can sound like and was with.
Should do a collab.
Oh, I would say Dysrhythmia for sure. I would say Dysrhythmia is one of those bands that like I feel is like horribly underappreciated. And they've been in the scene for a long time. They've been they've been around 20 years too. Like they're just so good. They're just so tight.
I'll have to check them out. I'm not sure. That sounds familiar, but I'm not sure I've ever listened to them.
Oh man, they're so great.
And they're playing with Gorguts in the new Gorguts incantation, whatever you want to call it.
And Colin, he plays with Behold the Octopus, if you're familiar with Behold the Octopus at all.
Oh, yeah. Oh, fuck. Okay, yeah. I actually got to see when Behold the Octopus were touring with Imperial Triumphant last year. I got to catch that in this little hole in the wall Portland bar. It was kind of a shame because there was like nobody there. It was like me and like 10 people. And like Behold the Octopus, of course, is like ridiculous sick, and then Imperial Triumphant is amazing too.
And they have that whole aesthetic down too. With the gold map.
They were cool guys too. That was fun because I actually got to sit down with them in person at the show, and we just sat down and had a beer and talked through Vile Luxury at the time. But interesting guys, and their drummer is a really cool dude, Kenny.
Oh, Kenny.
He's played on a lot
Kenny.
of shit, man. He's just like a sweet dude too.
We've toured with Kenny. We've played tons of shows with him. We've hung out with him, on personal levels. He's such a sweet dude. He's so talented, man.
Yeah.
And
totally.
he's just like, he's, from the metal stuff to the more jazzier stuff that he can do. He's just, he's such a versatile drummer, man. He's just got it all.
It was funny with him too, to like sit down with him and see that side of him when we were just like, chatting and whatever. And then he throws on that fucking mask and the hood, and they've got the fog machine going, and he's just a monster on the kit during that shit. It's
so funny. He's not even a metal drummer. Like,
no,
he didn't even come up as a metal drummer. He came up like in the jazz world, like, I guess like the.
They almost are more of a jazz band than a metal band in a way. Like, I feel like overall.
Yeah.
Like,
Zach's writing style, like, definitely like has like a kind of like that like jazzy death metal approach, right?
Actually,
to that genre.
I got their that graphic novel thing that they did. I don't know if you saw that, but yeah, it was pretty cool.
Shit!
Yeah, it was really cool. They got all sorts of crazy artwork in here with different artists on each of them too. I think Kenny's sister, I think he said, it does one of the segments, because I guess she's an artist too. But yeah, it's got like all sorts of cool stuff in here. It's like a nice little accompaniment to the album. But yeah, anyways.
That's great.
I'll support them any way I can, because I just think that I love bands that are just like out there doing something different, kind of have their own sound. You hear them, you instantly know who it is, and they're like, they stand out. And so, there's just so many bands that sound the same.
I would say you would get that for sure with Dysrhythmia. Definitely check that out.
Okay.
It definitely in that same pedigree. I would say with like Behold the Octopus, like. There's a lot of crossover with those two bands for sure.
I see there's a Krallis connection with them too, according to this.
That's Colin.
Colin Larson plays in Krallis.
Oh, shit, man! I'm learning things. I didn't even realize Colin did all those different projects.
Yeah, man, he's in like 30 different bands or something like that. He owns a studio in Queens, I think, and he does a lot of work for a lot of different bands.
Yeah. He strikes me as a guy who probably just like never stops playing, never stops writing. So he like needs all the projects to contain all the ideas. All right, y'all. Well, go ahead. No, go ahead.
I was gonna say, I think he just released like a symphonic album yesterday, I think.
Cool. Symphonic. Yes. Interesting.
Yeah, and it's like I don't think it's an actual orchestra. I think it's like sampled stuff, but like, he plotted the whole thing out. It was interesting. I listened to it.
Have you guys heard of Lou Kelly by chance? Look up Lou Kelly on Bandcamp or Lou Kelly Music. He's just this solo artist that does like all this weird. He did one album where it was like kind of like a mathcore album, but there's no like guitar or anything. It's all done with like random string instruments and like orchestration and like his vocals too, like pitching into the weird sound of it all. Each song name is a hint, as he puts it, to like what type of instrument he used for each one, because one's more like percussion based, one's more string based. That one's called like Pluck. And then his next album was nothing like that. Like, then he did one that was like a weird, almost like, I don't even know how to describe it. If you want to hear some more like weird random stuff, you should check out Lou Kelly. Like, he's another guy who seems really cool too. I've had some passing interactions with him and tried to share his stuff as much as I can.
I just pulled it up. I think after this interview,
his Bandcamp looks pretty wild.
Yeah, every album is a little bit different, and it's just.
What would you recommend a starter album?
Yeah,
what would you recommend?
Where do we start?
My personal favorite is that. That's. Damn it! It's the like something harmonic something Vulgarian. Yeah, that one. That's the weird like kind of.
Okay.
Avant-garde mathcore almost album, I would put it, with all the weird instrumentation. But then check out his newer one too, the one right after that, which has like the kind of like casino looking thing on the cover. I'm terrible with album names sometimes when I'm not looking right at it.
Junk City. Yeah, that one's more like. It's like Tom Waitsy almost kind of vocals, and like it's just this like dirtbags conceptual album. I don't know.
It's grimy.
Yeah, it's
Take a shower
grimy.
after
Yeah,
this,
yeah,
too.
yeah. That's another good one.
I brushed my teeth with my finger.
Yeah.
Remember that guy? We had a rehearsal space, and this guy was very much like that, the Tom Waits guy, but he lived in the rehearsal space. And one day I heard him recording a song about how he brushed his teeth with his finger. Like that was his core. That was the chorus of the song.
That's great.
Yeah, Drunk City.
All right. Well, on that note, I do actually need to go now, but I really thank you for taking so much time. And like I said, anytime you want to come back and do this again, like I'm totally game.
John,
Awesome.
thank you, man.
Thank you very much, John.
Thank you for your kind words about 2020, and thanks for listening, man. Appreciate
Thanks
it.
for listening.
Yep.
so much.
I'll keep screaming its praises. More to come.
Hell yeah.
I'll keep you
Thanks
updated.
a
All
lot.
right.
All right.
Thanks.
All right, dude. Have a good night, man.
Yep. You too. Bye.
Take good care.
And that'll do it for another episode of Trench Talk. Great time. Always love having full bands on and being able to talk through all the nitty gritty details and getting little stories and all that kind of stuff. But thank you as always for listening. Please do subscribe again if you haven't already. Check out social media, all that good stuff. But I'm going to end it here. Flight of Icarus signing off. I'll see you in the trenches.